Hello and welcome to the PS Pod. I'm Jeremy Schubeck and we're going to be talking about color in this session. Alright, so all of the color correction tools are located this button down here, the layers palette. Brightness and contrast is so simple. I'll talk about it right now and then not talk about it again. Basically it allows you to change the brightness. Oh look, the picture's brighter. Oh look, the picture's darker. We're going to keep that at 0. And then it also allows you to change the contrast. And changing the contrast is pretty nice. It's just a simple tool to get more contrast out of this. So it makes the darks darker and the lights lighter. Or you can go the other way right there. To be honest, this tool is so simple, I can't say I ever use it. So we're going to use a tool that I might actually use. Let's junk this layer and go to a tool that I might actually use. So let us go to hue saturation. Did that work? Alright, we're going to go into levels briefly, but we're not going to be doing anything intense with it. All you need to know about levels for the sake of this tutorial is if you press auto, sometimes good things happen. So it's a good place to start. Go to levels, press auto, see what happens. If that doesn't work, you can always just junk the layer. But for now, we're going to say that this picture, solved. Let's go on to another one. Do not save. And here we go. Alright, so this picture, something that I am conscious of that bears talking about is exactly what are the problems with this picture. When I look at it, what I see is that the blacks aren't black enough and the whites aren't white enough. So going to the 3 dimensions of color that I talked about in the last lesson, that means that it's a problem of value. Okay? So because it's a problem of value, that means that hue saturation wouldn't be it, color balance wouldn't be it, because both of those are things for hue, a problem of hue. Levels is generally what I go to if it's a problem of value. First thing to click, auto, works. Alright, so we're going to get out of this image. I think you understand that if you hit auto, sometimes good things happen. We'll see some examples where sometimes bad things happen, or where it just doesn't work as well as you'd hope. So I'm going to go, I see that it's a problem with the contrast. The whites aren't white enough, the darks aren't dark enough. So I'm going to go to levels, press auto, hope for the best. It made it a little bit better. We can turn this layer on and off, but it didn't make it good enough. So I am going to increase the contrast. And the way to increase the contrast in levels is to make it so the whitest white happens sooner and the darkest dark happens sooner. So it looks like I don't want to move that dark, but I do want to move this white. I'm going to keep pushing that, and then I'm going to see what happens when I play with the midpoint. See, maybe go like that. If I really wanted to adjust it further, I could go into this RGB drop down right now and affect the reds individually, the greens individually, and the blues individually. But for the sake of this tutorial, I'm not going to go into that. Just because that can tend to get a little bit confusing. So we are going to not do that and delete this layer and just be satisfied that if we apply levels, press auto, and then adjust it a little bit, we can get something that's pretty good. Alright, I'm going to close out of this. Alright, so let's get another one going. So one problem that you run into is how far do you want to push the color correction? So what I say is push it as far as you are able to and then take a couple of steps back. So I see that it's gone this far. I'm going to push the levels, just make it really dark, see what happens when I play around with the midpoint. So at this point, it's probably a little bit too color corrected. Now, I could keep playing with the sliders and get it so they're perfect, or I could just adjust the opacity of this adjustment layer, and that just affects how much this layer affects what's below it. So if I go to here, we can see that it's definitely affecting it, but it's not the craziness of 100%. So this is kind of a good mid-range right there. So just the before and after, still a major difference, but I wouldn't say it's going overboard. And that's just using levels, pressing auto, and messing with those two points right there. All right, no, not going to do that one. Let's go with this one. All right, so let's say you have an image like this. Again, it looks like the whites aren't white enough and the darks aren't dark enough, so we're going to go to levels, levels. I'm going to press auto and hope for the best. Looks pretty good. Let's push it in a little bit more. Decent. showing you this kind of causes me pain because I know of ways that are so much more advanced and so much cooler, but fact is, 90% of the time, 95% of the time, this does get the job done. One thing that I want you to note here is it still looks a little weird. So it looks like the hue is a little off. It looks somewhat green to me, I want to say. Maybe it's a little blue. So on top of this levels, we're also going to change the color. So I'm going to go into color balance. So we'll have 2 adjustment layers and make it so it's a little bit less green. Yeah, it makes it a little bit more vibrant and a little bit less cyan, a little bit more towards red. I don't know how I feel about that. Let's see what happens when we push it a little bit more towards yellow. Right now you'll notice that we're only dealing with the midtones. I'm going to do this for the shadows as well. Push it towards purple here, a little bit. This is kind of like playing with the sliders. Does this look good? Does this look good? And just kind of adjusting the colors to get it to where you want. So the highlights, and all of that. So is this perfect? No, I wouldn't say this is perfect. To get it to perfect, you need to use a little bit more advanced techniques. But this is certainly better than where we started, which is here. So it's definitely getting closer to the point. And again, I went a little bit further than I normally would. I'm just going to bring down the opacity of this layer. There we go. So, yeah, absolutely. Image is a little bit better, definitely in the direction that we want to go. All right, let's say we have an image such as this one. The main problem, as you can see, is it's way too red. So I'm going to go to color balance, because that's where you fix if it's too red or too blue or just leaning in one direction. And make it so it leans away from red. And so it goes, I'm just going to see this, yep, looks like towards green is close to where we want to be. Making it bluer is actually a very big help. Like even right there, we're already starting to get there. I'm going to do the same thing for the shadows. Push this towards the blue. Oh, that is not good. I'm going to push this. You can see that I'm just seeing, oh, this direction's wrong, so the other direction must be right. And I'm kind of eyeballing it right now. I'm just looking, where does it look good? Where am I feeling like, oh, yeah, it looks like it's a very neutral tone. Basically, the big thing that I'm eyeing right now is I'm looking for points that are supposed to be gray and seeing that they actually are gray and making sure that they're not like a yellowish gray or something of this sort. So again, I'm going to push this towards blue. And this isn't perfect, but you can see just by changing the color, it's a much, much better image right there. I'm going to go into levels as well. I don't think there's too much that needs to be done here. I'm going to press auto, see what happens. Nothing really happened. And let's see when we push the colors. I don't really want that. Push the colors, don't really want that. If I mess with the midtones, maybe move it a little bit to the left, but not too much. And we are left with an image that went from this to this. All right, so I'm going to get out of this. And you can see that the pattern is just using a combination of color balance and levels, and it gets the job done, you know, basically the majority of the time. All right, so the first thing that I see here is that there's a giant like yellow blotch right here that like really is drawing focus from where I want it to. So I am going to crop this. Going to use the crop tool right here. You can just press C, and you'll get there as well, just to get rid of that yellow. You know, there, gone. Yellow is gone. That's going to be the first trick I use. And then I'm looking at this, and I'm going to add some contrast to it. So in order to add contrast, I'm going to go into Levels and press Auto. Okay, I don't mind that. I don't mind that. And it looks like it's a little bit too purple. I'm going to say a little bit too purple, so go into Color Balance and switch it, make it go veer a little bit more towards green and away from purple. Do it in the shadows and highlights as well. And I don't see too big of a difference. Oh, there we go. There's the difference I was looking for. And just make it a little bit better. So the before and after of that color shift is just going from this to this. And part of that is just kind of getting an eye for when does it look too purple, when does it look too green, and just kind of understanding that. So the full before and after, this to this. So I'd say that's much better. In the next session, I'm going to show how you can use multiple layers of an image and mess with the masks of the layer adjustment layers, the color adjustment layers, to get even more of a control on the colors. All right, thanks.